Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thanks for joining me. My name is Jerrel. I develop games for a living. Let's go ahead and take a look at a demo for a game called The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. It's a prologue demo. I'm interested to see if this is better than the first version of the demo that came out. I think a couple months ago there was a demo for this game, and I didn't create an episode about it because the game was rife, or the demo was rife with technical flaws, technical implementation that was very frustrating to see because I believe this is coming from developers that are quite experienced, and their art director should have a stronger understanding of what is right, what is wrong, what looks good and what looks bad. And I didn't want to be discouraging, and I really don't like being a negative Nancy. I apologize to all the Nancys out there if I've just thrown you under the bus. I guess a Downer Debbie. If Negative Nancy offends you, then we'll go with Downer Debbie. I didn't want to be a Downer Debbie, and I just now realize I might have to apologize to all the Debbies out there. We should probably just play the demo before I dig myself into a deeper hole here. I'm going to be approaching this topic from a technical perspective. I'm a massive fan of action-adventure games, anything that's similar to the classic Legend of Zelda games or Secret of Mana. Huge fan. Legend of Mana is one of my absolute favorite games. There's something about their approach to the soundtrack here that is a little bit similar to the Legend of Mana. It has a very Northern European sound to it. The style of the composition here is very orchestral, and that the music itself has more movement to it than we would hear in soundtracks from vintage games. Generally there was more repetition, there was a focus on a leitmotif, and generally they were structured similarly to traditional fiddle tunes, with an A part that repeats and then a B part that repeats. The approach to the soundtrack that we hear in this game is closer to classical music, where there are forward-moving movements and there's constant change in the music, so there's less focus on a leitmotif. I personally prefer the vintage approach to it would be the classical. For gaming, classical is very different from classical in a musical sense. So this is a lovely soundtrack, and I feel that it was the late 90s where we started moving a little closer toward this style of composition, but it wasn't really until the mid-2000s when we were using MP3s instead of synthesized tracks. Generally, with older platforms, we would use basically it's the equivalent of a MIDI file. It's a very small file size, does not use up a lot of memory, and there's basically synthesized instruments in the game engine itself when you're running the game. And that's how we did it on older consoles. But when we got to the PS2 era, we could use MP3s for music, basically. And that meant that we could have more orchestration, but that also requires that you have an orchestra, that you have someone who can write orchestral style music, classical style, where it's classically structured with movements. And that is something that we hear in this. Okay, so we don't direction lock when we hold. Ooh. Yes. I like that. Taste my crimson blade! Crimson slash! I don't know, the character's not saying that, but that's what I want to say, crimson slash. The voice acting, it's not obtrusive so far, but let's see, so he says, start! There! Da! It sounds like he randomly picks between a couple of different voice clips. I think that's gonna get old. It's good to have some variety in arbitrarily selecting a voice clip from a bank, but it's already looping. I've done my special attack a handful of times. Okay, so far off the bat, I'm just gonna have a closer look at the screen. I'm not exactly an old man. I'm just getting closer to the screen here so I can have a closer look. There were technical flaws that I really disliked about the original demo that I am not seeing in this. And this is part of the reason why I did not create an episode discussing the first demo, is I had a feeling that these developers would address those technical issues. There were filtering issues in the way that the textures and objects that were closer to the screen were being filtered in a way where you could see a harsh line in the change of the bitmap detail, or if they were using some post-processing post-screen shader that blurred as you get closer to the screen. There was some artifacting there that made harsh lines and evident pixelation because of that. I'm not seeing that. I'm not sure if the camera is farther back than it was in the original demo, but this, okay, so the movement feels quite good. So you have momentum in the air when you jump, which feels very good. That's very satisfying. If you try to change direction in the air, there is some degree of momentum, so you cannot instantly just change direction in midair. That feels quite satisfying, actually. So the movement is good. What have I got here? Okay. If I press the shoulder buttons, it appears as though I can equip a second weapon, which I have not picked up yet. If I jump, I cannot attack. So here's the thing. If this was done with 3D graphics, I expect that you would be able to attack in midair. And the reason why this game most likely does not let you attack in midair means that the developers would have to create animations for attacking in the air with all your different weapons. You see his feet, his legs are in different position when he's in the air. And if you use the normal attack animation, it's going to look like he's standing in air. It's going to look pretty bad. It's going to look awful, right? Let's see. Can I can't. If I jump, it removes my charge up. Okay. And so, sure, the developers could do that. The developers could create all new animations specifically for just attacking in the air, but that becomes a significant issue when it comes to scalability, because if we look at this wheel, it looks as though we have a number of weapons. That means not only do you create new attack animations, you have two different versions, one in the air, one on the ground, but you also have to do it facing in different directions. So let's see, we have diagonals. You can see it's mirrored. Have a look at the feather on the hat. So it's mirroring left and right. So those are not unique frames of animation, they're mirrored. So you have diagonal, you have one, diagonal 2, horizontal 3, diagonal up 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 5 different directions that these developers have to create animations for. So this comes down to workflow sustainability. The work that you have to put in order to produce the assets necessary to produce your product, that sustainability becomes lower if you have to create now basically double the amount of animations. There's already going to be a massive amount of effort that goes into creating these animations by hand. These are handmade 2D pixel sprites, and generally they're easier to make than 3D models. They take less time to just do one sprite. However, when it comes to animating, that is where 3D models takes the advantage, in that 3D models have a much higher sustainability. That means that you can do an animation for 3D models, but you could actually blend them. For my own games, I have a game framework called the Fragment Domain, which I use for my latest game, The Hero of Destiny Was Killed by the Final Boss. And in that, even though in the game there is no jumping, that framework allows for jumping and attacking. And it uses the same attacking animations because it's able to blend the top of the body with the bottom of the body. You can have different animations from the top and the bottom. So when it comes to 3D animations, it's much easier. And so these developers at some point would have had to have made the decision, should we let the players attack in air? And they most likely would have determined no, because the workflow sustainability, whether or not they refer to it as workflow sustainability, they would have said the sustainability becomes significantly lower, or a shorthand way of saying it is it's going to take a lot of work. But saying it takes way more work is not the best way to describe it. There's a more clear way of saying that, a more helpful way of describing that. So workflow sustainability, if they had used sprites for this game, they likely may have determined, oh yeah, we could do attacking in the air. I don't know anyone from this development team. I don't know have any insider information, but if this was made with 3D graphics, the conversation and the decisions they made regarding the combat and jumping may have been a little bit different. Or maybe this team had always decided that you won't be able to attack in the air. But this is one of those situations where 2D sprites, it makes it much harder if you wanted to do that. because if you were to do this in 3D, it would take basically no time at all to implement attacking while jumping. It's much easier to blend animations together, and it takes less time, so it's higher workflow sustainability when working with 3D models. I don't particularly have any personal preference when it comes to the 2D sprites. Honestly, I would kind of prefer to see 3D models because it affords much greater creative freedom for developers. There is a concept I refer to as conceptual persistence, and that is once you perceive something, you understand the concept of something, then that persists. You understand that. When we see artwork like this, we understand, oh, this is what the character looks like. This is a little bit more literal onto what this character looks like. So we understand the concept. This character, oh, look how detailed he is. So when we look at the artwork, the idea of this level of detail, the idea of this character sticks with us. So that is something to consider, is conceptual persistence, is that the sprite work doesn't really need to constantly be as detailed dense because the developers have used the medium here. They've used the idea of conceptual persistence so that we understand the character looks like this. When we look at the sprite work, our brain puts those things together and we understand this is what the character is supposed to look like. If you look at the original Final Fantasy VII, there's another very strong example of conceptual persistence. When we see Cloud and his friends in battles, they're more detailed, they're bigger. When we go to the world map, the characters are a little simpler in detail. Their proportions are a little, chunky, but because of conceptual persistence, our brain combines those ideas together, and so we understand that the characters are real. They're really supposed to look like how they look in the battle system. Okay, so I wasn't reading that, and I'm sure I'll figure it out. Also, if you watched my episodes on Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, you may have understood that I cannot let a single barrel live. I had a good family, and they're gone now because of the barrels that came to my village. No, I don't. No, I don't. Oh, no. No, I don't need to go to town because there's a treasure chest up there. How dare you, sir? How... Oh my god. Okay. Alright, hands down. Alright, I have respect for these developers because they know exactly what they are doing. They put a treasure chest... They know. So the developers know they'll put a treasure chest up there. I haven't gotten a single treasure chest yet, right? So developers have to understand how people are going to feel, how people are going to think about their experience. These developers know that we want treasure boxes because inside of treasure boxes are tangible rewards, right? I need that. I desperately need that treasure chest, and they've blocked me off from picking up the treasure chest. You guys, so it is a little bit of a tease. It's playful. I really like that. I respect that. To me, it shows me that these developers understand the medium that they are working in, and it shows me that they know how people think and feel. So that's so cool. Seeing just a bit of playfulness like that. Also, how dare you? Because I need that. So I'm looking at the screen here. I see a little star on the left. It says drop bonus. What does that even mean? I don't know what that means. So far the combat feels fluid. I'm going to let some enemies, I'm going to find an enemy and let them hit me so I can see a little bit more about what this is like. But the original demo, I did not like it at all. It just, the presentation was not good. There was something off about the art direction. This is better. There's something significantly better about this. A number of things. Something I really like. They take the culling approach. This is a pixel-based culling method where we can see that as the character, there are objects that occlude the character that get in the way of the camera seeing the character. This is pixel-based. This would be pretty heavy. I would say on original Switch this probably has. I don't know if this game is on original Switch, but I would say if it is on original Switch, the frame rate would be pretty chunky. This is a pixel-based. It looks like there is dithering involved when it comes to the transparency, so it's not geometry-based. Interesting. Something like that takes a fair more amount of computing. So that takes some calc. Oh, it's a kitty cat. Hello. Hello, kitty cat. What's all this then, eh? I'm gonna throw a bush at him. I'm gonna take that. Oh. Take that! Oh, come on. Take that! Okay, that's fine. I pick up my rupees. Yeah. Is this my save point? Okay, we're gonna save. Let's head into town. Ooh. Oh, what? What's all this then, eh? Oh, but because I'm playing an RPG, I'm just gonna save on 2 slots. You never know, right? You never know if you're gonna screw yourself. I'm sorry, you have to forgive me, but I cannot let a single barrel escape. I can't. I just have to do this. You have to let me do this. Do we get them all? By Grabthar's hammer. By the sons of Warvan. Wait, did I get that backwards? Uh-oh. You shall be avenged. By Grabthar's hammer. By the sons of Warvan. You shall be avenged. I like that this lets you skip the scenes. They know that people replay these, and it's kind of a bummer to have to sit through it again. I've never implemented a skipping thing in my games, not yet. Okay. Now there is something. So this to me looks significantly better than something like Octopath Traveler. This is visually significantly more coherent. If you would like to hear me discuss Octopath Traveler and why I feel that just does not look as good, it's not coherent. It is frustrating to me to see Octopath Traveler. I'm glad people enjoy it. I don't enjoy Octopath Traveler because there's something desperate and incoherent about the visual aesthetic. This does not seem to be suffering from the same issues of Octopath Traveler. So there's something here about the texture blending. As developers, we assign the method of texture blending. I'm not seeing any kind of, for the most part, I'm not seeing something like a bilinear filtering. What I'm seeing is just pixel filtering, and that gives the environments a harsher, rougher, pixelated look. Now, you would say this looks bad. This technically looks bad, and yes, it does actually technically look bad or undesirable, but because the characters in this world are expressed through sprites, through 2D art with a lower pixel density, it was actually a very coherent decision to have the environments use pixel filtering like this because it's more coherent, it's more cohesive, and it is more consistent, whereas other games have bilinear filtering and it smoothens out the textures and the characters just don't fit in. There are other games that have come out right now where, well, at least the demo is out, and I think they look absolutely horrendous. They use 2D sprites in almost photorealistic 3D world, and it looks absolutely tragic. So I'm going to leave it here today. I'm going to tentatively rank this. I'm tentatively ranking this an A. I don't even have a ranking system. I went into this. I'm gonna be honest with you here. I had a cup of tea, and then I have my cup of coffee here. I'm on decaf right now, and I did not want to have to play this demo and discuss it because I was concerned that it was going to be the same as the first demo, where I did not see the competence there, and it just did not look good. You have to excuse me. I have to destroy this barrel. Let's go inside. Let's see what the buildings look like. So I'm going to wrap things up here, but I'm so pleasantly surprised. I'm giving this a tentative A. This is really fantastic. I really like the blurring of the outside of the building here. Ooh, chef's kiss, fantastic. Ooh, this is very smooth. This is quite different from Dragon Quest, where we actually transition to another scene for Dragon Quest, I believe, for 7 Reimagined. I'll have to double. No, I'm certain you actually transport the character to a different scene. I really like this. They implement a kind of fog of war and a blurring for the outside, and then the inside stays in focus. Interesting. Very interesting effect. I was going to give this an A. Okay. This one visual effect. Right now, I don't know how they implemented this particular effect with the fog of war and the blurring that's just on the outside. I'm not 100% certain how they implemented that, so I'm changing my grade for this product. I'm changing it from an A to an A+. I really like the camera zoom in, the focal length of the camera adjusting. Oh boy, I did not think I was going to like this. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not think I was going to like this, but I'm giving this an A+ right now. And the previous demo, I would have given it a C-. So, oh, that is delightful. Look at this. Look at that. So this is not distance-based, this is a trigger. So it's most likely the character is touching a hitbox, and when the character collides with that hitbox, it's just a smooth transition. It's not distance-based. Oh, this fantissimo. And I think that's not even a word I use. I'm giving this a fantissimo. This is going to be an A+ from me. I think I'm going to play this demo a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're interested in game development, I hope that this has been useful to you. Thanks very much for spending some time with me today. I'd be interested in discussing this game further. You know what? Good use of real-time screen space ambient occlusion as well. You see that as the character approaches the wall, there's a bit of a darkening there. So that's not baked. You see underneath there's a sort of a... Ooh, okay, there's two different systems. There is a blobcaster for the shadow underneath the character, screen space ambient occlusion as one object occludes another, gets close to another. They have done... they've done a wonderful job on this. They've done a wonderful job. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. If there are any other games or any other demos you would like me to take a look at, please let me know. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to get back to work on my own games. I could talk about my games that have recently launched, but I'm so busy. I just got to get back to development for the rest of the day. I'll see you around.